Hello, my name is Rasool. I'm founder of the Balance Point Experiment. This video will explore why the Balance Point Experiment is being run. It's based on 7 years of research with hundreds of people looking at how people discover their calling in life and work together with others to bring it about in the world, perhaps even changing the world in the process. It's an opportunity for you to go along and take part so that your own personal life can have balance brought to it. You can attend to your calling in life and perhaps even link up with other people and their calling to bring about a change between you. Perhaps even bring about a change to the world. So enjoy the video, and if you've got any questions, there's a link at the end of the video where you can contact me and I'll be more than willing to answer your questions.
The internet and social networks are changing in a very dramatic fashion. The old internet and social networks in their first instances very much focused on the principle of relevance. You go into Google and you look for something, it returns results based on their relevance to a lot of people in the world. If you go to Facebook, if there's something there that you connect into and engage with, you might click on the like button, and that's your way of approving what's there and indicating what it is that you want to engage with. Often working in a social network is about connecting and sharing. It's about looking at who there is out there that you might want to exchange with. It's often about catching up, and a lot of the focus when people first started using social networks was to build massive networks, build huge groups of people that they could associate with themselves. Even when the internet was first formed, getting a web page created was only done really so that you could be the number one source for everything that people were actually looking for. The internet was very much driven about information and knowledge, and a lot of people use the internet to try and get sales for their businesses and also to express their voice about what they're interested in or what they feel needs to be different about the world. Many websites were competing against one another for people's attention, and the focus on initial technologies that came out with the internet was very much on bringing people entertainment of some kind. Even Twitter, the initial focus for people's attention was on whatever was trending. However, the emerging internet and emerging social networks are no longer looking at things from a place of relevance. Relevance is a very surface level way of engaging with people. It's something that is now being supplanted by a new way of connecting with people. The new school of using the internet and social media is not necessarily about focusing on what you like, it's focusing on what you could learn from other people. It's not focused on relevance, it's focused on what people have a deeper resonance with within themselves. It's not also about connecting and sharing either. It's now about learning and growing. It's not about catching up, it's about wising up. It used to be about massive networks, but now people are realizing just because you've got a massive network, it doesn't mean you've got great relationships with everybody in that network. So the focus is now to build quality relationships amongst a small group of people, a small community, to build massive relationships rather than massive networks. The old style internet, everybody was trying to be number one. But the new style internet is recognizing that actually everyone's got a contribution to make. Everyone can be a source for information, for wisdom. And if people collaborate together with one another, then the whole world would actually become wiser. Although the previous focus in the internet and social media was on information and knowledge, now people are looking at how much knowledge there is, how much information there is, and see that it's actually just too much for anybody to really process properly. And what people are hungry for is something to distill it all into some kind of insight or intuition people can use immediately and apply in their lives. Even sales, which was a big thing for the internet and social media, is something that people are beginning to realise is not appropriate for a first point of contact with people. In modern social media, if you don't provide people with support first, it's unlikely that you're ever going to get a sale from them. So the old style sales that people used to be involved with in the internet were ones where you would sell something to someone first and then you would offer them after sales support. But the new internet is actually operating the other way around. You've got to support people first before you even are likely to get a sale from them. So sales are what you might call after support sales. They don't tend to happen unless you provided value to somebody first and supported them first. If you try to sell something to someone on social media without having supported them first, you're probably likely to be unfriended in an instant. Previously, the internet was about each person shouting, and whoever was the loudest tended to get the most attention. But as you may have been observing, especially with the Arab uprisings and Occupy movements and numerous other crowdfunding and crowdsourcing projects across the world, people are no longer focused on just shouting the loudest about whatever it is that they're doing. They're focused on actually making a difference. And the people who get heard now are not the people who shout the loudest, but people who seem to be making a difference in the world. Competing was the thing in the olden days of the internet, but now people are realizing in order to make a real difference, they need to collaborate. They need to work with one another. They need to develop common standards on how they relate with one another. Entertainment was the first port of call for any new technology on the internet and social media, but now more and more people are saying, well, can we actually build something that leads people to help one another first before we run around trying to do things that are stimulating? So being empowering is the first duty of any newly emerging internet or social media technology. This is especially seen with things such as Twitter, where in the olden days people used to just follow whatever was trending, whatever lots of people were making comments about. But if there's one thing that's been learnt about these kind of activities, is that whatever's trending isn't necessarily something that's worth trusting. So people are beginning to look for things that are worth trusting first and not necessarily attach themselves to whatever is trending. All of this can really be summarised in how we look at the internet and social media and how the world is evolving from the point of view of relevance factors and resonance factors. The old internet, the old social media, the old society was very much driven on intelligence and people's interests and preferences and behaviour. Google returns results based on intelligence, based on people's interests and preferences and their surface behaviours. However, the new internet, new social media is saying that intelligence isn't really enough. People want to know how to apply that intelligence in a practical way that makes a real difference and empowers people. So what they're really interested in is no longer intelligence, they're interested in wisdom. Also, interests tend to come and go. They can be a fad one day and they could be gone the next day. So what's actually more important for the longer term and at a deeper level is what people's intentions are. What are they authentically trying to do with their lives, and what are their motivations to make a difference in their own lives as well as other people's. Preferences also come and go. So people have begun to look at what are the priorities in their lives rather than just the things that they'd like to have. They are focusing on what they need to have and what's really genuinely going to develop them rather than just give the impression that they're actually being supported. Last but not least, the old way of working with the internet and social media was to connect into people's behaviours, maybe even analyse text and content on websites and social media streams to try and discover some kind of sentiment that was going around with people and then plug into that and perhaps do some sales and marketing. The new internet is not focused on behaviours, it's focused on longer term, more eternal ways of being within people. All these relevance factors, they're actually the residue of resonance. Resonance factors are the origins of relevance. Think about it. Your intentions, when you hold them for long enough, you end up developing interests around them. Your priorities are things that eventually you develop preferences around. And your way of being is what you ultimately might develop certain behaviours around. Now, there might not necessarily be balance between these things, between your interests and your intentions, between your preferences and your priorities. Your behaviours might not align to your real way of being, who you truly are authentically in terms of your character. Your personality might not align with who you are as a human being deep down within yourself. So often there is an imbalance between the things that we seek that are of relevance to us and the things that have a deep resonance for us. The balance point experiment is all about trying to find a balance between these two sides of how the internet, social media and society are beginning to evolve. It's trying to find a balance between what you like and learn. It's trying to find a balance between connecting and sharing with people and learning and growing with them, between catching up and wising up with people, between expressing your voice and actually making a difference, and last but not least, actually beginning to no longer just work with intelligence alone, but to use it in a wise way to make an empowering difference in the world. So the balance point experiment is fundamentally about finding the balance point between all these things in a person's life, in their community and in the world. What you saw there is actually something that is a sign, it's a symptom that the world is going through a shift. The world's going through a shift because there's a change in mindset in how people relate to one another. They're moving from that relevance-driven mindset to that resonance-driven mindset. And one of the things that's happening as a consequence of that is that people are changing how they're putting that thinking into practice. They're developing new techniques that focus on building resonance between people and getting them to focus on developing resonance factors in business and in people's personal lives. Also, there are new technologies emerging which can identify resonance within people and between them and cultivate it. The balance point experiment is something that will actually introduce the resonance mindset to people. It will show them techniques to put it into practice, and it will allow them to use technology to identify what they have resonance with within themselves and between themselves and others, and get people to connect on that resonance so they can empower one another and maybe even make a difference beyond themselves in the world. Although the mindset's very much centered on that relationship between resonance and relevance, the actual techniques used to cultivate resonance are based on 3 cycles. If you want to bring about change in the world, if you want to enhance the things that make you feel resonance within yourself and between yourself and other people, you can't really do it unless you're awake to what's going on around you, unless you're alert to changes that need to be made within you and between you and other people. So before you can collaborate with others to transform the world, you have to be awake. You can't sit on a table and make plans with someone who's asleep. You can only really make plans or collaborate with people if all the people sitting around the table are awake and conscious and can have a meaningful dialogue with one another. So the first technique is that you really need to learn to develop your own awakening, become more alert. Once you've done that, then you can probably hook up with other people who are also awake and alert and begin to work with them on collaborating on something that's going to make more of a difference to yourselves beyond what you could have done as individuals. Out of that, eventually, you're probably going to notice that a bigger change is needed beyond you in the world, maybe even together with other people in other communities. This is when communities link up and realize that there needs to be some kind of transformation in the world that they're actually living in. If the transformation really happens effectively, it typically will lead to even more awakening, even more shift in awareness and alertness around the things that will genuinely make an empowering difference in the world. These 3 stages that are described here are techniques in something known as the ACT cycle. The awakening, collaboration and transformation stages are all cycles in themselves, and typically you're not going to move from one to the next until you've completed one cycle. There's no point in collaborating with people, as I said, until you're awake, and there's not much point in trying to transform the world on your own. It's a good idea to try and learn how to collaborate with other people, and you're not really going to get any new awakening unless you bring about some kind of transformation either within yourself or the people around you. So those are the three stages of the ACT cycle themselves, each cycles that people have to move through if they want to change themselves or the world around them. So the ACT cycle is something you'll find moves along courtesy of three influences. When a person gets the support they need to wake up, to collaborate with themselves and transform, when they get the challenge they need to help themselves and to also stretch other people around them, and lastly they can reflect on knowing when to support themselves and when to challenge themselves, then they are going to pick up momentum, they're going to pick up a sense of trust, and their curiosity will probably be raised, their ability to be creative and grow in a sustainable way will all be helped. So long as this is going on, so long as people are getting the support, challenge and reflection they need, they'll continue to wake up, collaborate with others and transform the world in a virtuous way. So support, challenge and reflection are vital for social transformation, beginning with individuals. They're like vitamins in the sense that they are things that you kind of need to get every day. You need to get your 3 a day. Your best friends typically will give you support when you need it, challenge when you need it, reflection when you need it. They're great sounding boards when you need them to be. But it's possible to grow up in life without having had the support, challenge or reflection you need to grow in life and make a difference. So it would be really useful if you could be linked up with people who could give you the support that you need and stretch you and to help you reflect on the right things, who could help you get your social vitamins every day. And this would lead to you building more trust with those people. Maybe your life would have more momentum. You'd find you're much more creative and are able to grow in a sustainable way as a consequence of getting your vitamins every day. The social vitamins each have very specific functions. Supporting a person is very much about reinforcing what's working. Challenging them is about stretching them and looking at what's not working and trying to see if it can be changed. Reflection is very much about looking at whether you need support or whether you need challenge in a given moment, or whether things should be just left alone and you should continue to perhaps reflect a little bit more. You need to give support, challenge, reflection to the things that make your life worth living, the things that ultimately get your mind and your heart to focus on feeling alive. Why you're doing things that you are in your life typically will influence what support you seek, what challenge you seek, and what reflection that you seek. If you get the right balance of support, challenge and reflection in your life, you really start to engage with the reasons why you are alive. You begin to really connect into the sense of purpose for your life, your calling. Your calling is going to be a kind of a balance between things that you're curious about, that you really find engaging, things that you're learning around, that you're serious about and are to do with your empowerment, and things that you like and that you have fun around, things that you find entertaining. So your why, your calling in life, your purpose, is something that you'll find is a combination of these factors. It's something that's engaging, something that's empowering, and something that's entertaining for you. And you might find that you have challenges in that what you're liking and what you learn might be two very different things. In which case, if there's a conflict of interest between what you find fun and what you need to learn, then you need to develop techniques to be compassionate towards yourself, to work with the truth that really matters and helps you to transform. This is where nonviolent communication comes in, NVC, which is right at the centre of the why space in your life. It really helps you identify how you can reconcile differences between how you're empowering yourself, how you're having fun in life, and staying engaged with what's coming into your life, or the other things that other people are bringing into your life. So it's really important to get support, challenge, and reflection that actually feed engagement in your life, feed empowerment in your life, and feed entertainment in your life. The practical way about doing this is to actually look at your needs, your mental needs, your emotional needs, your physical needs, even your creative needs, and your energy around your life, your values and morals. You'll find that the abilities that you have in meeting your needs, in terms of how self-aware you are of your needs, how you manage your needs, how you develop new ways to meet your needs, as well as how you help other people meet their needs, how you help them become aware of their needs, how you help them manage themselves, and how you help them develop. These are the things that you have to practically work with every day in order for you to support yourself, to challenge yourself, and to reflect on the right areas of your life. So social vitamins are really a way of meeting your needs through awareness, management and development. Awareness, management and development are three parts of emotional intelligence and social intelligence. So when you're working on them for yourself, you're working on your own personal emotional intelligence. When you're working on them together with others, you're working with social intelligence. So if it was possible to get a map of how well you're applying your emotional intelligence to meet your needs, and how well you're applying your social intelligence to help other people with theirs, you would have a good picture of where your life is currently at in terms of how you're supporting yourself, how you're challenging yourself, and how you're reflecting. Even possibly having an idea of how you're doing that with other people. Now, the first week of the Balance Point experiment begins by you registering at the www.act.community website. Using the login details sent to you, complete an Atmascape needs ability questionnaire at the website www.energydiamond.com, and as soon as you finish the questionnaire, you'll be given a priority to work with that day, and providing you do this each day, you fulfill that priority and you meet that need, over time you're going to find that your purpose is going to begin to unfold, and you're going to start to discover what your calling might be. When you fill in the questionnaire, you'll see that your scores are going to be put into a grid-like form, like you see here on the top right, and in a paint-by-numbers way, they'll be turned into colours. You'll get this image, which is kind of an image of how you're doing with your life. The red areas mark the lowest scores that you typed in, and they represent the areas where you're doing least well, or you might not really be very focused in terms of meeting your needs. Where you scored the highest, those areas are coloured blue. These are the areas that you're putting most of your energy into, the needs that you seem to be meeting in the best possible way. And the average scores are coloured green. So this image that's taken from your questionnaire scores and in a paint by numbers way is turned into colours. It's called an Atmascape. It's something that means a landscape of the self. Atma is Sanskrit for self, and scape, of course, is to do with a territory or a terrain. So what you're really looking at here is a landscape of your inner world, yourself. It's a mental kind of selfie, if you will, and it's really a picture of your life's energy and how you're meeting your needs at that particular moment in time, as well as how you even helping other people with theirs. So that mental selfie is something that gets created as soon as you fill in the questionnaire. There are other things that are given to you as well. As soon as you fill in the questionnaire, information is given to you about what your priority might need to be that day to make the most of that day. Also, there's information given about what it might ultimately help in your life, your long-term purpose. And lastly, information is given about the way that you need to go about meeting that priority that day. If it's a logical approach, then you need to be realistic. You need to focus on doing things that are tangible and measurable and accountable. On the other hand, if it's an intuitive approach, you might need to focus on using your imagination and focus on being someone who is looking at your relationships and maybe your creativity to go about doing things. So with these 3 bits of information, you will know what to centre your day on, what you're ultimately doing it for, and the attitude or the approach that you really need to take to go about meeting that need that day. The following day it might be a different need, it might be a different long-term purpose, and it might even suggest to you a different approach. But providing you do what's indicated each day, over time you'll start to meet the needs that are really important for your life and its underlying purpose or emerging calling. To help you, information is given to add up all your scores that you typed in the questionnaire, and a percentage is given for the maximum that you could have given yourself in terms of a score, and also information is given about a sense of commitment that you might have at the current moment in your life towards what you're doing. It's possible to look at how your personality, for example, is aligned to your deeper character, and that alignment determines really the overall impact you make on the world with the skills that you actually have. So if you look at the alignment and compare that to the number of the kind of skills that you have, then wherever the percentage is to do with alignment, that's telling you that's how much heart you're putting into your skills. So in this case you can see someone's only putting 10% commitment or heart into their skills, and the consequence is that they're only really having a 7% impact on the world compared to what they could do. In the long term, it's always better to be aligned, having your personality aligned to your true character, because it's easier to upgrade skills than it is to upgrade commitment. So if you've got a strong commitment, then you'll probably find that you'll make the most of your skills. Skills can always be upgraded, but alignment and commitment is a lot harder work. Now, it's possible to not just help yourself, but perhaps link up with other people and look at how they are going about meeting their needs and comparing that to how you're going about meeting your needs, and looking at seeing if there's areas, for example, where you've got strengths and the other person has weaknesses, where perhaps you could help each other out. Images are created which don't just show where you're meeting your needs well and where you're not, but also how well you're doing it logically and how well you're doing it intuitively. It's the same image, just unfolded into like a left brain or right brain view. And in these 2 images you can see 2 people and their profiles compared with one another. The images on the left just show how well they're meeting their needs, and the images on the right show how well they're meeting those needs using the logical left side of their brain, and how well they're meeting those needs using the right artistic intuitive side of their brain. Wherever the colours are blue, it means they're using that side of the brain strongly, and wherever the colours are red, it means they're not using that side of the brain without much focus. You do sometimes see colours the same on both sides of the image, which means they're using both sides equally in that area of their life, which means they're acting in a whole brain way. Now, this can be taken to a much more sophisticated level, where 2 people can be matched to see how well they could support one another. They can be matched to see how similar they are. So in this image, for example, you can see 2 people have been matched based on how similar they are, and you can see the colours for where they're being logical, where they're being intuitive in meeting their needs are more or less the same in the same places, and the strengths and the weaknesses, the blues and the reds, seem to be very much in the same places. They're equally logical and intuitive in the same areas. For someone to actually get the vitamin of challenge or stretch in their life, it's important that they link up with someone who's opposite to them. In other words, they've got strengths where the other person's got weaknesses, for example. In this image you can see exactly that, where one person's got blue colours and strengths, the other person typically has red colours. And it's a sign that these two people will challenge each other and stretch each other, and they've got a lot of potential to learn from each other. The problem with people who are very similar is that they also have similar weaknesses, so they're not necessarily the best to learn from each other. Great to learn from only if they are opposite to one another. So similar people get on very well with each other socially, but opposite people tend to have the greatest possibility of learning from each other, even though they might not like each other. In the experiment, each participant will have a chance to see who in the experiment is similar to them, that can support them around their needs. They'll also be shown who's opposite to them and who can challenge them and stretch them, as well as people who are complementary, who are a mix of similar and opposite qualities, and they're the best people to reflect with or use as sounding boards each day. People can be bookmarked, and you can kind of start to build up your own community based on your bookmarks, and you can watch those people in that community and choose who are the best people to go and get support from each day, to be challenged by and to reflect with. Once you see your matches, you can connect in with people by clicking on their social networking links. You can jump to their Facebook page and send them a message, or do it via Twitter or LinkedIn, for example, or you can just send them an email message if you don't have any social networking links. The final thing I wanted to share was that if people really want to cause a change in the world, then they need to understand some basic figures that have come from research over the years in how social changes and shifts actually happen. It turns out that 18 people is all that you would need to cause a shift in a city the size of London, providing those 18 people were able to effectively support one another, challenge each other, and help one another reflect. You would only need 29 people to actually shift the consciousness or the state of a country the size of England, for example, about 70 million people. For the whole world, you would only need 92 people to effectively support each other, challenge each other, and help one another reflect, to resonate with one another effectively, for there to be a much wider effect on the world as a whole. So if you want to change a city, you only need to find 18 other people to join up with that are resonant with you and that you can mutually support, challenge and reflect with, and you'll probably find the city starts to be different in your experience of it as a consequence of you coming together. 29 people is the community size that you need to be a part of, where everybody is resonant with one another, for there to be an effect at a national level in a country such as one the size of the UK. And 92 people is the big network that, if it was formed across the world, would be enough in size to begin to change the behaviour and consciousness of everybody across the whole world, providing those 92 people were really finely matched against one another for giving one another support, challenge and reflection. So if you want to find out what your need is every day, that's ultimately going to get you into a greater state of resonance with yourself and help you unfold your purpose and your calling in life, then you can begin by taking part in the Balance Point experiment. Start by going to the website www.act.community and either create your own group and become a community leader. The way you do that is just register with your email as the community code. You'll be sent a code to use to get people you know to join your community through the same page. An alternative is you join an existing group that you've already been invited to. If you've been sent an invite by a community leader to join a group, they would have sent you a community code, and you just go to the act.community website and register with that community code. If you're an individual and you've not been invited to a group or don't want to be someone who starts your own group, you can join the global community group, which is for all the people that are not running their own groups or haven't been invited to join an existing group. So it's the catch-all group that everybody can go and join. If you want to join the global community, then all you need to do is register at the act.community website with the community code global2015. Now, if you need any further information, don't hesitate to contact me at my website, act.community, or via my email, jazz@act.community. Thanks for your time, and I trust that you'll join the experiment, having learnt what you have, and look forward to you transforming yourself, your community, and the world.